Hello and welcome to our October Junior Event Team call. My name is James Thomas. I'm Junior Parkrun and Impact and Engagement Manager. So thanks for joining us. As always, please do use the comments box on YouTube. I think it's already getting used already. Please do introduce yourselves as you're doing. Talk to each other. Ask us any questions. We've got Helen Hood in the background, which hopefully can answer questions as we go along tonight. But yeah, thanks again for joining us. So we've got a lot to go through today, or tonight, or this morning, wherever you're calling in from. So much going on in junior parkrun world at the minute. What we're going to do is look at how we're doing numbers-wise and compare them to the same period last year rather. We're going to talk about parkrun primary. We're again joined by Gary Wilcox, who's one of our ambassadors in Staffordshire, to talk about how junior parkrun events in that region work with each other. Then we've got Claire Ferguson from our team giving an ops update. And then again, lucky to have Meryl, another ambassador, who's going to talk about the critical incident line. And then any questions which you have, we'll try to answer those at the end. So yeah, plenty to go through, a stacked agenda. So these are our new events which have joined us since our last call. A massive welcome to all of you. Thanks for putting the commitment in to getting your event started. And I'm sure the events which have been going for a couple of weeks now are already seeing the impact in the community. And welcome to the events which only started last week or the week before. And then I will mention Stubby Lee in particular, just up the road from me. So looking forward to visiting very soon and seeing what it's all about. But yeah, welcome all of you events to the Junior Parkrun family. So in terms of new events, we've seen that there's 14 join us since our last call. In terms of young people finishing, this is global statistics. We've averaged since the last call 32,503 finishes every Sunday. And just a bit of context around that, that's actually up 30% on last year for the same time period. So big increase in terms of finishes, weekly finishes at Junior Parkrun. In terms of volunteers, again, up by 12% and 10,000, just over 10,000 joining us every Sunday. And total finishers of 812,565. So yeah, a lot of young people finishing juniors, which is amazing. Just to put that into context a little bit in terms of Junior Parkrun in the UK over the last 12 months, the growth of Junior Parkrun has been almost double the rate of growth of parkrun. So clearly, we've seen a massive need for this, of young people wanting to take part in Junior Parkrun. We've seen the impact of families wanting to get involved. But as my colleague Chris Foote often reminds me, that one person at parkrun might be one person, but one finisher at Junior Parkrun could be the whole family, could be the parents, could be the brothers and sisters. So we know that has that wider impact of Junior Parkrun, which we all know. So moving on to parkrun primary. So first of all, a massive thanks again for all the events who've supported us on parkrun primary so far. We put a call on a couple of weeks ago with my colleague Steve, kind of addressing what the whole thing was about. So thanks for your engagement on that. And as you remember, those who attended that call, we set ourselves a target of 500 schools to sign up to parkrun primary. And we thought that was really, really ambitious, actually. But as of today, we've got just over 1,400 school signs up. So clearly, we've seen a massive interest in this. What was really cool to see when we launched it was just the support we had and people really buying into it and getting that support from some awesome people and great partners, people like Joe Wicks, promoting it, Department of Health, Department of Education, Team GB, the government. And we're really lucky that the Department of Education in England sent the brochure out to every school in England. And we're hoping to do it with some of the other countries where we work with as well. So it was really great to people really buying into Junior Parkrun and as a result, Parkrun primary as well. And like I said, really amazing to see so many events already engaging in it. So just a couple of reflections from me over the last couple of weeks. As you can imagine, it's been really busy for our team. And we know sometimes parkrun social media can be a bit of a mixed bag with the varying different comments. But I can't remember seeing such a positively received news stories when we launched Parkrun Primary, with people tagging schools, schools tagging people, events all kind of going around. So yeah, it's really, really cool to see that. I think what we're as a team most proud of, the initiative was really inspired by you, the event teams and ambassadors, based on your feedback from the event team survey we did, through comments on calls like this, that we should twin with schools, that we should work with the Department of Education, we want toolkits. So to see that kind of inspiration and see it launch is something really, really cool to see. So thanks to everyone who fed back on that. And I did say it on the last call, but again, a massive thanks to all the event teams who helped us pilot Parkrun Primary, who looked through the resources and gave it a thumbs up that they liked it. For all the ambassadors who looked through it, because there's been so many, but a special shout out to Reese in Wales, who was able to translate all the resources, which we did into Welsh, which has been really cool in Wales to see that build with that Welsh and English language resources there. So just a kind of a reminder of the process of Parkrun Primary, the emphasis on the schools connecting with events. We think it's really important for the schools to take this ownership and for them to make the first move to the Junior Parkrun event, and really important for them to take ownership of those stages. So we've heard a couple of occasions, only a few, where schools have turned up without kind of prior contact with that event. So what we're going to do as a team is continue to push the importance with schools of the message of their need to contact the event team first. So we're going to put that in our comms, and we're hosting a webinar in a couple of weeks, inviting all the schools who signed up to attend. And again, we'll be really pushing that message that it's the importance of connecting with those events. And then we hope that Parkrun Primary just works for however that event sees fit. So if you can accommodate more young people, you might have multiple classes. If you're quite smaller and you can't kind of cope with that many numbers, maybe it's just a group of young people from that school, but just working in collaboration with that school. And just for your reference, we're actually going to share a map after this call with all the Parkrun Primaries who have signed up after this call. But it's really important that if you can actually not to share that more widely outside the Junior Parkrun community, just around consent of what the school signed up for and marketing and comms and all that sort of stuff. So we'll share that with you after so you have an idea. But again, we really want to put the emphasis on the schools contacting the junior event teams first. And then just this last slide, and I think this is what it's all about. It's been really, really great to receive so many emails, social media posts from happy events, happy schools, and of course, young people attending from the first time at their first Junior Parkrun event. And I think, again, something we're most proud of is Junior Parkrun really taking the headlines for a couple of weeks. That was the Junior Parkrun was the headline on the BBC, all our different social media, and again, kind of taking priority, which is something we want to push. Again, keep pushing that Junior Parkrun message outside our Parkrun community to make sure more young people have access to it. Everyone on this call loves Junior Parkrun, but it's so great to kind of share that with people who've never heard of Junior Parkrun before, or might be just taking their first steps at Junior Parkrun. If you do have any questions around Parkrun Primary, please do email our email address, which is parkrunprimary@parkrun.com. Anyway, that's more enough from me. I'm going to pass you on to Gary now. So over to you, Gary.
Hi, thanks, James. And welcome to all the ambassadors and event teams and everybody who's on the call. So my name's Gary. I'm an event support ambassador in Staffordshire, in the West Midlands region. There's 5 of us in Staffordshire, and headed up by our regional event ambassador, Liz Tideswell. I provide support to a number of 5K events, but also, particularly important, 3 junior events in the county. They are namely Longton, Cannock Chase Forest, and the most recent addition to our patch, which was Purton Plainfields Junior Parkrun. So could I have the next slide, please, James? So for a fairly medium-sized county, decent-sized county, we've got a population of 1.1 million in Staffordshire. We did, until the beginning of this year, only have 5 junior events. We've added 2 new ones this year, with another 5 in planning. And the main reason I'm here tonight is to talk in particular about the launch of one of those events, about some of the preconceived concerns, the eventual impacts, and some of the lessons we learned from it, and all of which are helping to inform our growth strategy here, and most importantly, helping us to build some really strong links between all of the events. Next slide, please. So at the start of this year, a new event was starting up in Lyme Valley in Newcastle under Lyme. This meant we'd have 4 events in the Potteries, North Staffordshire region, all in very close proximity to each other. A lot of our event teams were worried about maybe losing volunteers to the new event, not being able to fill their roster every week. They were also a little bit concerned, would it have an impact on participation numbers? As ambassadors and event teams, we kind of came together. We needed to provide reassurance, work together. And I wanted to share some of the things that we've done with those 4 North Staffordshire events in particular, but also some of those things are spreading out across the whole of the county. You know, Staffordshire is quite a long county. We've got these 4 in the north and then 3 junior parkruns in the south. So what I'm about to share is what we've done with the 4 in the north together, but we're hoping to roll that out and get a similar effect in the south. Next slide, please. So we do really try to create a collaborative approach to everything we do. We know that whilst levels of junior parkrun tourism are relatively limited generally, we do see a decent proportion of participants who move between these 4 events because they are really close together. You know, probably no more than 5 miles, 6 miles between all 4 of these. And so we feel that by promoting the events together as a collective, we don't think that is going to impact the attendance at these. The attendance seems not to be impacted by external factors like weather or terrain. So we feel by promoting the 4 events collectively, all 4 events benefit. And so this is a post that was created by one of my colleagues, Gareth, which demonstrates all 4 of those events on one single post and just coming together as a team on this. Next slide, please. And that collective approach extends to us encouraging event teams to proactively post to other local event pages, to tag those events in their own posts as well. We find it really helps with the Facebook algorithm and the Facebook traffic, but it also promotes great interaction between the teams as well. We know that as ambassadors and event teams, we also have a big role to play in supporting our colleagues around the county. As with the 5K events, the last thing we want to see is a cancellation due to lack of volunteers. And thankfully, we find that risk is actually quite small at junior events anyway. But very occasionally, particularly in times like school holidays, we do sometimes have to call on each other at various times to ensure we can go ahead. Here you can see a few of those posts, a little bit about how we promote and help and tag each other. And then next slide, please. This is some examples of some of the different ambassadors and volunteer teams and how they've helped out. So at various times, we've jumped in to support some of the other teams. The bottom picture there on the bottom right hand side, really interesting one. We had a situation last year where all of the registered run directors at Longton were away on a single week. It's never happened before. I hope it'll never happen again. But the team from Burslem sort of mobilized and came and helped that event go ahead. And it's a really good example of how the teams work together, but also the ambassadors. We work hard as a team just to make sure we're representing our ambassador team and all of the events around the whole county. Next slide, please. Whilst so this is another example. This is something else that Gareth, my colleague, produced recently. Shared publicity has been a great help. The left-hand side was a Facebook post that the event teams could share. We also created a version, incidentally, for the teams in the south that had the 3 southern Staffordshire parkruns listed on there as well. The right-hand side, that was a physical leaflet that we produced. Around 2,000 copies of that were produced and disseminated to the local schools. So this was obviously ahead of the Parkrun primary initiative, but it has had a huge impact. In fact, we've got some close links with some primary schools that came off the back of this. It really helped us to gain engagement with some of the local schools, and we've seen a really direct, measurable impact on participation numbers from kind of Q2 onwards when this happened. Next slide, please. So whilst we try and promote a shared collective, we do also want to encourage event innovation where it encourages participation and fits the remit. Over the past 6 months, we've had some school partnerships, as I mentioned. We've had a really successful centenary celebration with some staggering numbers. We've had representation from running clubs. We even had a Bring Your Teddy Bear Day at Cluffle Parkrun, Cluffle Junior Parkrun. That one's really interesting, actually, and got a lot of engagement. But it also ties in with something that we're seeing just generally. This is very anecdotal, but a move towards a slightly younger demographic at some of our events. Obviously, the Parkrun Primary Initiative is going to perhaps support that even further. But yeah, we always try and promote some of these kind of innovations that go on at each of the individual events. Next slide, please. A few more examples here. Star Wars Day and Olympic themed events. We've had football themed events as well. And bottom left, that's something that's really interesting. That is an example of what we've been calling a mini run report from written by some of our juniors. This one was at Purton Playing Fields, the newest edition. They're really kind of sweet and endearing. They're quite short, usually half a dozen lines, but it gives us a different view, a different perspective on the event, how it's seen from a participant point of view, and we really try and encourage that. Again, it's about promoting engagement. Next slide, please. Which leads really onto what I think has been one of the big successes in what we've tried to encourage. That's getting a lot of the participants involved in the volunteering roles wherever possible. We found that on the day volunteer coordinator is a really good one to get them involved in promoting interaction with others, build engagement with the event. But we've also had juniors tail walking. You can see a picture there in the middle with supervision, obviously, but funnel managing and timekeeping. And we should also mention the huge support that we've had from other groups. So at the bottom there, I mentioned Purton Playing Fields, which started around about 2 months ago now. We had huge support from the local parish council and also the district council to get that event through, and they've been really involved from start to finish. So that these have all been things that have, again, really helped gain community engagement. I think with the parish council, they've been absolutely fundamental in driving interest and engagement in the local community and helping us cement some really strong ties with the local school and local community groups, the scouting group and various other things. So that's been really good. And that picture on the left there, that's two of our kind of volunteers from Purton when they came and helped out at Cannock Chase Forest. So we've had a great kind of sharing of volunteers as well. So I mean, that's a summary of some of the things we've done. I think the most interesting thing to note is that right back to the start of my presentation, the concerns were that when Lyme Valley came on board, would that have a detrimental effect, both short-term and long-term, to the existing events? And actually what we found is the exact opposite. We found that whilst the new event got very high attendances in the early few days, well north of 100 participants, and there was possibly a very short-term detrimental effect on some of the local events. We're now 7 months on, and we can look back a little bit more reflectively at what went on, and we found that the other 3 events in North Staffordshire have actually all seen increases in their participation numbers over that period. So I was having a look at the numbers recently, and Longton, which is really close to Lyme Valley distance-wise, that's risen from an average of about 45 participants. That was per week in the 28 weeks leading up to Lyme Valley coming on board. And then in the 28 weeks since it's been on board, that's risen to 73, an average of 73. So 45 to 73, which is huge. Burslem sit in the similar timescale. They were averaging around 18 to 20, now at an average of 34. And Clough Hall were around about 27, 28, now averaging around 45. All this is in light of Lyme Valley coming on board, and they're averaging around about 80 participants per event. So yeah, it's by bringing Lyme Valley on, we've really driven participation numbers across the region. I think the key for us is that it's not a competition. When one junior event wins, we all win together. So we're now working with the event teams in the south of Staffordshire. We're trying to build similar links across the event there, and to be honest, we're already seeing that happen there anyway. They're driving that themselves. There's a good link between those events already. This past weekend, Cannock Chase Forest Juniors was unfortunately cancelled due to the forecasted winds. But a lot of the volunteers from Cannock Chase, they went over to either to Beacon Juniors in Lichfield. Similarly, we've had volunteers from Longton and Cannock have gone to Purton in recent weeks as well. So this kind of close cooperation doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be mutually with other junior events either. We also see there's a really Cannock Chase Forest, the team there have got really close links with the 5K Cannock Chase event, which takes place a couple of miles up the road. There's a lot of shared volunteers, and they've even shared equipment before, which is great to see. So finally, for me, like about the volunteers, because again, we saw rosters filling more quickly. Actually, we've seen more participants, which means more parents, more possible potential volunteers, and so increased event attendances and increased event profiles. It's a big help to drive that forward. So we're finding that the rosters at almost all of our junior events are filling up weeks in advance. So I know whilst there may be some challenges in 5K events, new 5K events starting up in close proximity to other 5K events, our experience in juniors has been nothing other than wholly positive, really. And I'd encourage other ambassador teams and event teams around the country really to consider embracing a collaborative team-based approach when you're promoting your events. So that's it for me. Thank you for listening, and I think I'm going to hand over to Claire next.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here and joining us. So I'm here to just give you a little brief update on some operations from the event delivery team. James, if you could pass through to the next slide. It's just going to say marshals at Junior Parkrun, and then we can move on to the next slide immediately. Thank you. So on this slide, this is all relating to the rule about marshals at Junior Parkrun. So just some key points here for you to set the scene. So this rule changed back in 2019. There's the kind of key headlines there. The marshals at junior parkrun events are positioned no more than 100 metres apart and maintain line of sight to the next marshal. So following on from that rule changing in 2019, a survey was sent out to all our 2K event teams earlier this year to capture what it was, the minimum number that your team need to be able to maintain that requirement. The key message here from myself, from Helen, from everyone else in event delivery is thank you so much for your help with that. Because without you giving us the answers, we wouldn't know what was going on. So thank you so much. And as a result of that, we are now undertaking, as we can see there, some low-key governance on this, and we're reaching out to teams when necessary. So just to give you an idea of some of the stats that we're seeing. So last weekend, the 5th of October, now obviously, as Gary's just mentioned, there was a storm. So some events were cancelled, we know. But of the 427 junior parkrun events that took place, on that report with too few marshals, we had 38 events in total. So you can see that the vast majority, absolutely tickety-boo. Of those 38 events, 29 had one short of their declared minimum marshal requirement. And what we've been seeing in reaching out to teams and asking them the questions about this is that we're seeing that most of these instances of appearing on the report is as a result of unregistered volunteers, the occasional odd volunteer that's not been added to the roster, plus there are a few no-shows, which we know does happen in some places and is something that we can't really prepare for. The ask here is if you were using unregistered volunteers, if they're turning up on the day and offering to volunteer, that's brilliant. If you can, encourage them to sign up right there and then. If they can't be persuaded, a little reminder, please, to use the unregistered volunteer form. It's also really useful if you can log an incident to help us explain any shortages too, because then we can match everything up and everything as well. If we could move to the next slide, please, James. Thank you. So with this 100-metre and line of sight rule, I thought it'd be really useful to just show you in practice what this might look like at an event. So I've got two example maps here. The one on the left is a real junior parkrun. The one on the right, it's my local playing field. And I've just used it as a great example to show how we might think about where marshals need to be on these courses. So in the first example, we can see the course running round. The yellow M's are marshals. The green S is the start and the red F is the finish. So you can see that we've got marshals spaced at regular intervals on that fairly straight section of the course. But then on the more wiggly bit through the trees, you can see that they're spaced much more regularly to maintain that line of sight rather than simply just by 100 metres. So there's lots of blind spots on that course. That is a course I've been to. So points to if anyone can recognise where that is. So the marshals are positioned much more regularly so they can keep that line of sight because there are blind spots. Whereas the second example on the right, you can see that they're spaced out a little more sort of evenly, roughly 100-metre intervals. We can see as well that at that point where they're going round the trees, the marshals there, the mid one, can still see both of the other two marshals around the corners. So they're maintaining that line of sight, but we've got that 100 metres in between all the others. Obviously, the key thing here is having marshals to keep the event safe. More marshals, always brilliant thing. They're there to encourage and cheer everyone along. Certainly, I really enjoy being a marshal at Junior Parkrun, but it's just to give you a visual idea of how we're seeing this working in practice. And then my last slide on the marshals at Junior Parkrun is simply just another thank you. Thank you, James. Thank you so much for your help with this. We're really pleased with what we're seeing so far. And it's been a great opportunity to have some conversations with teams about what's going on and to understand things better. So thank you for all that you're doing, all that you've done, and please just keep it up. So next subject that I'll be talking to you about is dogs at Junior Parkrun. So we can probably skip past that slide, James. Thank you. So we're just going to talk about this because in reviewing the incidents, we've noticed that we've seen a few more crop up which have involved dogs at Junior Parkrun events. So really the key message here is just a reminder that we don't allow dogs at Junior Parkrun events. So the rule from the volunteer hub there is dogs are not allowed to accompany walkers, runners or volunteers at Junior Parkrun events. One way you might be able to remind your volunteers is to pop a little reminder in your volunteer email on a Saturday evening, if that's when you send it out. I've just borrowed this wording from Harrogate Juniors because I got this email when I volunteered with them a couple of weekends ago. So it's just an easy way to remind volunteers please not bring their dogs. Please also remember to always include that reminder in your pre-event briefing. I know parents turn up with their dogs and they might want to take part, but just a reminder, please, that they can't. With all that in mind, there is an exception for anyone who has an assistance dog. And that includes if your event is at a location where dogs are normally not permitted. I know there are some locations where dogs are not allowed. There's more advice on that on the Volunteer Hub under the dogs policy. I've screenshot it there, which I realise is a little bit small, but it is there on the Volunteer Hub for you to read, okay? And then just because I'm about to talk about incidents, a little reminder, please, that if you have any non-assistance dogs at a junior parkrun event, please do remember to log an incident about it, okay? And then my final slides are about incidents. So a key part of what I do each week is reviewing the incidents that have happened the previous weekend. So between myself and Kathy, and often Helen as well, we spend Monday reviewing all the incidents from the weekend. I look after the 5K events mostly, Kathy the 2K, but we might well look at each other's as well. This is just a really strong but friendly encouragement to please log anything that happens at your event before, during or after that is out of the ordinary. No matter how small it is, please tell us. I've listed there some of the things that we typically see and that we would expect to see. We're not saying we want to see these things, but we want to know that they're happening if they are happening. We know that oftentimes teams want to log the incidents before they do the results, and that's absolutely fine if that's the easiest way for you to do it. But a little reminder as well that it is possible to log your incidents after you've processed your results. I know some teams, they will log something quite brief before they process the results, just so it's in and it's done. And then they'll go back later when they've got the detail or when they're sat at their laptop at home, so they can fill in the detail. The incident reporting system is designed to be really simple, so it's used out in the field and usable on a mobile device. So if you need to go back and do it at home later, you can absolutely do that. On that note as well, the more detail you can give us in the initial report, the better. We don't need War and Peace. I did study literature at uni, but I'm not here to read any more like that. But if the more you can give us, so names, barcode numbers, what happened, what actions you took, any mitigations that you took with sort of a hazard, for example, and any outcomes from the incident, please let us know, because the more we've got there, the less chance we need to reach out to you afterwards. Also, gentle reminder as well, please, to log any multiple incidents separately. Obviously, we know some things happen in tandem, and that's fine to log them together. But if you've got, let's say we've got dogs at Junior Park and you've got 3 parents who've run with their kids and their dog, please log each one of those 3 separately, okay? It's really important as well, please, to not remove any results for any reason, except if there is an error. We know that sometimes people want to remove a result for bad behaviour or there's a problem with that participant, but what we'd ask you to please do is log an incident, refer it through to us, and we'll review it. It just means then that we're the ones looking after that, and we can kind of keep an eye on things as well. The final reminder before I move on to Meryl is just a quick reminder before she tells you in more detail is about the critical incident line. So the numbers on the screen there, you may see it referred to as the CIL. Just a reminder that that service is there. It's there for Sundays as well. I was speaking to an event ambassador recently who thought it was only for Saturdays. It is for Sundays as well. It is a pastoral support service. So ideally, and Meryl will tell you more about this, you're dealing with the incident and then you're coming through to an event, a critical incident line ambassador who will provide that support there, let someone in head office know, and then they'll reach out to you as well. But to hear more on that and stop me stumbling over my own words, I'm going to pass on to Meryl.
Hi, Claire. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. And if you'd seen the 5K call from back in May, you'll know what I'm about to say, because I'm saying the same thing, but with a slight tweak for juniors. So, hi, my name is Meryl. I'm one of the Critical Incident Line support ambassadors. If you move on to the next slide, first slide, please. Thank you. Meet the folks you hope you never have to speak to. Any calls from the UK and Ireland are supported by us directly, giving support and advice. We flag any serious critical incidents to Claire, Helen or Kathy, for example, in the event DFib is deployed. And we also take calls from all over Europe and pass them to Derry and Jakob to support on Saturdays. In the past, calls range from needing technical support, advice on how to cancel an event, minor incidents, right up to deployments of defib with success and sadly fatalities. Next slide, please. So any incident should be reported via EMS prior to submitting your results or via email to eventsupport@parkrun.com. Critical event incidents should be reported as soon after the incident as possible. Please encourage all your run directors to have the UK number saved into their phones. A copy of your run director clipboard, if you have one, is also advised. And we recommend keeping a piece of paper to hand to log information, as it will help with your report later. And at our event, we have one of these on our clipboard. I'm not sure if you can see that. It just has a helpful title, time and date, names and parkrun IDs of those involved in the incident, a brief description of the incident, and any action that you've taken or any advice you were given by locals from medics on the scene, anything you have. Jot it down there. You can flesh it out later, and it's really helpful when you're coming to write your report for HQ. Please note that if you do phone the line, while we try to answer quickly, we are not a replacement for 999. Please deal with your emergency. Call us for ICE information if needed, but by all means, call us after the incident to report in. And that ICE information is all that information that you put that is on, hopefully on the bottom of a barcode, but sometimes isn't there, especially if it's on a phone. So we can help with that. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the advice shown here can be found on the Parkrun Volunteer Hub. We appreciate that this is the last thing you think to look at when you have an emergency right in front of you. So our role on the call is to be a listening ear, a verbal prompt of the points above, and to give support to you. Another facet of our role is that whilst Parkrun engaged with all incidents submitted on a Monday morning, like Claire said, a critical incident often requires more immediate support. We're ambassadors as a liaison and enable a member of HQ staff to contact you sooner. We're volunteers too, and it might be that we don't pick up straight away, especially if we're taking part or volunteering at Parkrun ourselves or due to phone coverage. But we are here to support and be a friendly ear. So we will call you back. It will be from our own personal contact number. A little side note, phone call from the weekend I had, because I was volunteering just recently. I had a phone call go at 8:15, and I thought, hello, there's nobody there. Hello. So I hung up and I phoned her back, and then, hello, hi. Yeah, this is the Parkrun critical incident line. Everything okay? Oh yeah, you were in my pocket. Great. Perfect call for two reasons. One, there was no critical incident, and two, he had my number plugged into his phone. So that's always good to have. So encourage your run directors to have that. Next slide, please. So what happens on a call? So if you have to phone us, things we will ask include your name, the name of your parkrun, and the nature of your incident. We'll let you tell us everything you can, and then we'll ask a few questions to flesh out any details. Based on the time of the call, we'll either give you advice to manage the incident or what to do now it's over. We have the ability to retrieve the ICE details should they be needed to contact the next of kin. And a lot of folks have put their ICE details in when they first signed up to Parkrun, which may have been a number of years ago, and they haven't thought about it since. There's no harm in reminding your participants to check their own Parkrun profile, available with every results or volunteer email they receive. There's nothing worse than finding out we have the information for an ex-partner you'd rather not hear from, a family member who has sadly passed, or worse, no ICE information at all. So usually when you call, the incident is over and the advice is how best to report to HQ. We advise teams to contact their event director if they're not on site already, your ambassador, and your landowner. We encourage volunteers to review the critical incident protocol available via the Volunteer Hub. We also encourage the event team to get together and talk through their emergency procedures. What worked, what didn't, and what, if any, improvements can be made. Generally, I will finish the call by telling folks you've had an exciting morning and there's nothing more that you've done. You've more than earned yourself a cup of sweet tea and cake. You will have looked after everyone else that morning, so now it's time to look after yourself. I've got to say, I had, as a run director, I had a critical incident where we had to do involving the use of our AED, calling ambulances, dealing with family members, and I can vouch that having had an incident, the care I received was exemplary. I was able to talk through everything thoroughly with the critical incident line ambassador on support that day and with HQ. whilst I could take my own advice, it was reassuring to know that support was there. So if you have any questions, just give us a shout. That's all for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Meryl. That was mega. Yeah, thanks for Gary and Claire and Meryl for being on that call. I'm going to bring Claire back on now for a second. So we didn't have too many questions in. We always ask for questions in beforehand or good news stories. Didn't actually have too many in. We've had a couple of questions on there. One around kind of the mapping and where schools have signed up for Parkrun Primary. As I kind of mentioned in our thing, we will be sharing the map out after. Obviously, this will have the school name. We won't be able to share kind of specific contact details with the person who signed up because that'd be personal details, but we'll share that map with you. And then again, in terms of like large or smaller events and worries about kind of a lot of young people come from the school, again, we're kind of trying to promote that contact from school to events. So again, that event can manage those numbers in the best way they can with the school. As I said, if it's a class, a small number of people or anything like that, which leads me on to the question we did get emailed in, Claire, around larger events or how any junior parkrun event can deal with an increase in numbers at all. So Claire, over to you.
That's great. Thanks, James. Yeah, so I think I'd just echo what James has said there, that if you are seeing potentially, you know, larger numbers because you've had multiple schools reach out, do exactly what he's just suggested there and sort of work with the school in sort of a collaborative way to suggest it's class by class, doesn't have to be the whole school. I can just see that Helen has really helpfully put in the large events on the volunteer hub advice. So that was going to be my first point. That is there. It does give some great advice on how to handle that. My general view on these things is that we don't have exact answers on these things because parkrun as a whole is becoming more and more popular. We're seeing more people come down, which is great. I think sometimes as well, it's really useful to look at where your issues might be at your event. So for example, you know, are the larger numbers causing a particular problem in the finish funnel or at the start line? Do you maybe need to look at where your course is and can you readjust where the start and finish are to help accommodate that? The advice on the hub that Helen shared does talk about maybe moving things around, but bear in mind if you're making massive changes to your, or any real change to your event course, you might need to update your risk assessment. Can you think about how to minimize any pinch points? Are you having problems because it's not just the juniors, like we were saying earlier, you know, juniors, it's not just the one, it's the parents and everyone else. Can you look at creating like a parent-free zone to help minimize excess numbers, perhaps in the finish funnel or in that finish straight? Can we talk about etiquette reminders, you know, about parents not going down the finish funnel? So it's looking at where you might be having those problems. It's really great that Gary talked about events working together as a sort of a broader community in an area, because something that I've really sort of spoken to a lot of teams about is working together. If you know you're cancelled one week, reach out to another team and say like, we're cancelled, you know, you might get more. Can we offer some volunteers? Or just being aware of those things. A great idea of this was the parkrun paradox. We think that we're the only ones having those problems, but actually if we talk to our community, we can really learn that we're all experiencing those things and learning from each other, working together. So I'd really encourage teams to speak to one another, 5Ks and 2Ks, because it might be that you can share like resources, problems, all that sort of thing to come up with some of the solutions for this. I think as well, it's worth reminding everyone, the key thing we want here is simple and safe events. Sometimes they might be a little bit chaotic, but if they're simple and safe and everyone's had a good time, that really is the key thing here. So sometimes a bit of a spirit of embrace the chaos might need to be implemented on the day, but absolutely come back and go, right now, how can we work on that in future? And that's looking at, you know, do we need more volunteers? How can we reach out and expand that? Do we need to rethink our course? So I'm sorry, that's a bit of a washy answer, but we just don't have the fixed ones because it's a constantly evolving thing. But I would really encourage you, talk to each other, talk to your event ambassador, email event support when you've had a great idea. So then we've got that answer to share to other people as well. But yeah, I mean, just keep on loving junior parkrun. I think we all agree it's the best hour of the week. So
yeah, I think to sum up that, I think on Gary's message on point of work together, you're not an island by yourselves, work with the other events. Claire and Helen are so supportive of all this stuff as well, so reach out to them and support. Just a bit of an update from our last call. Obviously, last time on our call, we asked your opinions on junior parkrun milestones. So it's part of a project we're working on. So we've got feedback from the last event call, which was thank you so much. We've also used our volunteer pool, so that's ambassadors who can feed in. So we've had a number of focus groups to gauge their opinions on milestones at juniors, and also used our youth panel. So in the process of making some recommendations to our senior leadership team on if we make any changes to the milestones or not. And again, as soon as we have anything, we'll feed back to you. There's the usual question around pop-ups, and I think Helen's answered that, but yeah, no news as just yet. In terms of next week or so, we will send out all the resources mentioned, so all the flyers and all the posters and all the videos as we usually do. We'll send you the information around Parkrun Primary. If there is any questions we've missed, we'll also get those answered as usual. And we'll also get a survey out to you so you can fill those responses in. I think that's everything, Claire. What I'll do is I'll bring everyone back in, and so we can say goodbye. But yeah, as always, thanks for everything you do. Thanks for engaging with us. Thanks for asking any questions. And if you've got any ideas on future calls, I know there's something about conflict resolution. But yeah, feel free to pitch those ideas. And yeah, if you want to speak on them, just let us know. But I'll add everyone in, including you, Helen. Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Take care. Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.